I don't know how much Trump like gained from this whole line that there were no new wars under Trump, but like the fact that that even functions as a talking point is just so fucking bizarre. Like you're acting as if all these different actors in the world
are like scared of Trump.
Yeah.
They actually believe that. You don't say they believe that. They really
Yeah.
believe that. Yeah.
What, they're scared of the guy who half the time brands himself as an isolationist. The guy who doesn't want to get involved with the rest of the world. The guy who wants to fucking dish NATO and shit, or we're scared of him.
I didn't have I didn't Vyvanse my way through Trump's presidency. So I've only remember things that I remember reading about at the time and everything. If the gold standard was still in place, wouldn't gold have continued to pace? The economy would be much worse. Okay. Somebody emailed me. So one thing that I hadn't remembered before that somebody emailed me, so it's a talking point I use now, is that I didn't think for the first time in all of history, Iran directly attacked Saudi Arabian oil refineries. That happened under Trump. A second thing that happened that I wasn't aware of is for the first time ever, Russian troops on the ground were actually fighting against Ukrainian troops in the Donbass. Somebody emailed me and they told me that Trump did nothing over that. I think they said that Trump tried to both sides it. So the idea that Trump would have done something in Ukraine is ludicrous. It's stupid.
Well, people say that Putin saw weakness and that's why he did it. That's true, but that weakness was built up by like almost a decade of American failure. Like it was built, like, first of all, I'm pretty sure he sensed weakness when Obama did nothing. Then he obviously sensed weakness when Trump didn't fucking do anything and actually put pressure on Zelensky to get political dirt on Hunter Biden. And again, it's when people say that Biden had a weak response to Russia and Ukraine in the sense that I guess they didn't help Ukraine militarily as much as they probably could have. And they just resorted to sending them old equipment that wasn't going to do anything anyway. But even that weak response from Biden was motivated by Trump, by Republicans.
And I think all of it stems. I think all of it stems from our foreign policy disposition since Iraq, basically, that we're like petrified of doing anything. Yeah.
That's a problem now, especially because since talking about smelling weakness, China has been watching the entire thing happen in Russia and Ukraine. I think Trump has already, he said something about how he thinks that Taiwan should quadruple their defense budget in order to get more help from America.
Yeah.
So it's already not even unthinkable that Trump just walks out on them. Like,
yeah.
What do you think he's gonna do for foreign policy?
Nothing. I don't know. Did he do anything before? We surrendered to the Taliban. He did a few strikes, like strategic, like an assassination, bombing of a Syrian airport.
He's pretty unpredictable. And like people say that the most likely thing is that he forces Ukraine into negotiations and makes them neutral and then basically sets them up to get fucked by Putin later.
That was my assumption for Ukraine, that basically he was going to tell Ukraine that, like, hey, you need to give up Luhansk and Donetsk or whatever, and you need to leave Crimea alone, and maybe Zaporizhzhia and Kherson, maybe those will be independent. I don't know. And then Russia can keep those, and then Ukraine has to promise that to join like NATO or the EU for like 10 or 20 years, and then the war will end basically. And I feel like Putin would take that off ramp because then it alleviates a lot of pressure on him, and maybe sanctions go away or whatever. So
that's why. I guess that's what's harder to say though, is that Putin at the end of the day is still at least a fairly independent mind compared to Trump. So
yeah, but if the U.S. pulls the plug on it, like I think that this opinion on that will shift almost immediately in Ukraine, right? Because now they're like omega fucked, right?
Maybe. I mean, maybe. What happens to Ukraine when they cede territory? Then the people in there get massacred. So like. There's nothing. I don't know if there's anything stopping Ukraine from just wanting to fight a fucking war of attrition without anyone's help, because they know that what happens when they give up territory. They know that, especially if they know that whatever ceasefire, because that's all it would be that they agree to with Putin, is just going to be allowing Putin to lick his wounds and try again later for more. So he could just be leaving them to, like, they're going to fight with or without our help, with or without the West's help.
Yeah, but how much can they fight without any help at all?
I don't know. They can dig in. It's at the end of the day, it's still not easy to invade a country, and I don't know if Russia's in a position where they can just steamroll the entire nation and up to Kyiv. Like maybe they could
without any foreign help whatsoever. You think? You don't think they could?
I don't know. I don't know what state Russia's military is in right now. But it's the fact that occasionally Trump has suggested that he's not completely against doing the complete opposite. I don't know if you've seen this clip from 2023.
Zelensky says unacceptable to offer Russia concessions on Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday said it would be unacceptable for Europe to offer the Kremlin concessions to halt its invasion of Ukraine after Moscow demanded the West enter direct talks on ending the war. Kyiv is scrambling to up the pressure on its allies for more support in its fight against Moscow following Donald Trump's victory in this week's U.S. presidential election, which has raised doubts about future U.S. assistance. Trump has boasted that he could end the conflict within hours and repeatedly criticized American aid to Kyiv. Russian President Vladimir Putin has demanded Ukraine cede swaths more territory in its east and south as a precondition to peace talks, while Kyiv has repeatedly ruled out giving up land in exchange for peace. Ukraine and many in the West fear any settlements that rewards Putin would embolden the Kremlin leader and lead to more aggression.
I feel like that's the most likely thing he'll try to do, but the thing with Trump is I don't really find it impossible to see a world where Putin does something to upset him or like tries to push for something that wouldn't make Trump look like he actually did a good job. And
You'd be surprised if who didn't?
Putin.
Oh.
And Trump just flipping. And because you know how people talk about the amount of money that we're giving to Ukraine and everything. It's not really. I think defense spending for America as a proportion of GDP is what, 3%. Back in the 50s, it was like 15.
Yeah, that might be true. Yeah,
that's like an all-time low, and especially compared to Lend-Lease and everything, it's peanuts. I don't know if Trump would be necessarily because he's occasionally suggested that he might just go the other way and arm the shit out of Ukraine to show that America's done a better job than Putin. That's the thing I don't know why he would, because obviously he can do that. He can give both messages at the same time and get away with it.
Yeah.
But there's that one interview with Fox News in 2023 where he's basically saying like, oh, if Putin doesn't do what I want him to, we're going to like arm Ukraine like more than they've ever had, right? Yeah. So the problem with Trump is that he's able to, and it's so fucking annoying. Like, I don't understand how he's able to be like a hawk and an isolationist at the same time.
Because the people that support him and listen to him is all like emoted, right? It's all emotivism. They're not listening to the actual positions or the policies. They just kind of like what he says, and then that's kind of it. So he can just kind of say or do whatever he wants. Yeah, it's pretty dumb.
Yeah, and like a lot of this, especially, it's even worse with Israel because he's so pro-Israel, but he'll like bask in it when his fans call Biden Genocide Joe. Who are they accusing of committing genocide?
That's the nice thing about your fan base being like uninformed dipshits is you can literally own every part of every position, like all at the same time. It's really dumb. Yeah.
Do you think that risks him like creating a monster in the sense that like the opinions of his base might push him somewhere like away from what he was originally planning?
Generally, I think he can control it because it's whatever he says is what people will say they want to do. You know.
That's pretty fucked up. Put up that clip.
What clip?
The one I sent you on Discord.
July 16th.
2023.
Over a year old.
Uh-huh.
These leaders are at the top of their game. These are smart people, including Macron of France. I could go through the whole list of people, including Putin. Now, Putin's been wounded, probably. Let's see how it all turns out. You know, it's not over. I mean, one way or the other. But these people are sharp, tough, and generally vicious. They're vicious, and they're at the top of their game. We have a man that has no clue what's happening. It's the most dangerous time in the history of our country.
So what should be the response?
Ukraine would have never happened if I was president. None of this stuff would have happened. You wouldn't have inflation, for one thing. But going back to that, Ukraine would have never happened. Taiwan, which will at some point happen under this group, would never have happened.
Look at how he's talking about a hypothetical future event in the past tense. Mm-hmm. Taiwan, which will happen at some point, would have never happened. What the fuck? He gives an answer like this, and then his fans say, yeah, Kamala Harris sounds like a retard when she talks. Yeah. The standards are unreal. Jesus Christ. Okay,
that'll be a good clip when
if it does
happens, yeah.
Going back to that, Ukraine would have never happened. Taiwan, which will at some point happen under this group, would never have happened.
He's figured it out in mid-sentence.
You never heard these things being talked about. I knew about them because I'd be with President Xi. I talk, and he likes Taiwan a lot, and Putin liked Ukraine a lot. It was the apple of his eye. But he never made a move with me because he knew he couldn't do it. Remember this also with Putin. You know, they like to say, oh, Trump was soft. I was tougher on Russia than anybody in history with the sanctions and everything else.
You said you could end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours.
Yes, I could.
How would you do that?
I know Zelensky very well. I felt he was very honorable because when they asked him about the perfect phone call that I made, he said it was indeed he said it was, he didn't even know what they were talking about. He could have grandstanded, oh, I felt threatened.
Well, that's not going to be enough for Putin to stop bombing Ukraine.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I know Zelensky very well and I know Putin very well, even better. And I had a good relationship, very good with both of them.
But they were still fighting at war with each other. Good one, dude.
No more. You got to make a deal. I would tell Putin, if you don't make a deal, we're going to give them a lot. We're going to give them more than they ever got if we have to. I will have the deal done in one day.
God, he's so fucking retarded.
I think if the right media cycle and the right if there was just the right media cycle that went around for a few days calling Trump weak for whatever deal he tries to pull out with Putin, I think that would wound him.
That's why I'm saying that, like, if I was telling Anna this, if Ukraine wants like all the help they need, or they want the United States to support them, they need to start deep faking like secret conversations of Putin, like calling Trump like a small dick motherfucker or some shit like that. Because if Donald Trump thinks Putin is talking shit, that would literally be enough to motivate the world's largest economy to start supporting Ukraine hardcore. Yeah.
I think that can be accomplished at home as well. Just say that this deal shows Trump's weakness, America's weakness.
Sure.